Even if I'm in a red dress, I'm non-binary, bitch, and I look good. You know, like, it didn't make me, you just made me feel like I didn't have to be like going for this certain thing. It was just about like what I felt, and that it didn't matter if like I wore a dress the whole year round, and if the reason was because I felt comfortable or because I had to, it didn't matter. I was non-binary through and through, and that like it was more so about like once I found something that connected with me, that really helped, but meeting you like showed me like what that really meant. And so that like just took away a lot of the fear and shame that I had.
What do I bring that none of your other partners didn't?
I don't know, like you being non-binary, I feel like that comes out in every aspect of who you are. It's like this perfect harmony of those energies. So, and they like balance each other out. So whatever you pursue, whether it's like more like traditional feminine things, perhaps, like they're not, like it's not experienced that way. I don't know if I'm being articulate about that. But yeah, you're able to really flow between the two energies so well, which is what I love being around. And you teach me so much weaving through those things, you know? Yeah. And redefining what those things can look like a barber calling you princess. And you're like laughing about that. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think it's that part of me that's been more coming out of, you know, like my non-binary self has kind of been a constant navigation of, you know, I feel like I should be more masculine in this way, or I should be, you know, like there's, I think because I've been seen so feminine for so much of my life, there's been a sense of like, I have to pursue the masculine and I have to reject the feminine quality or whatever. And so I really do, I'm trying to rid myself of that, because I don't think it, you know, there was times where I was like, I think I'm a trans man, you know what I mean? And like that, nothing wrong with that, but that at this time doesn't feel like it's actually me. It felt like I was just trying to land somewhere, you know, like land somewhere on that binary scale, just to be like, you know, not have to deal with that discomfort anymore. So yeah, I mean, I think you've helped me navigate that for sure.
If you could go back in time when I was 5, what advice would you give yourself regarding raising me? That's a good one.
What advice would I give myself?
Yeah. Now that
Going
you know
back,
who I am now.
Well, first of all, I feel like, you know, with all the gender stuff, that I understand now how you were back when you were 5. Yeah. I didn't understand it then. You know, that Nikki Nice chart. Remember that? You know, and
being a bad
when you were just
child.
when your grandfather would come over and want a big hug and kiss, and you'd be like, you know.
They'd call me cute, and I'd be like.
And you'd be like, you didn't want to be called cute, and the word pretty was a problem, and now I understand.
Yeah.
But I think I would, the whole body image thing, I think I would do things differently. Like I was always wanting to make sure that you didn't think about, you know, food, and I wasn't going to be on your case for, you know, the right diet. I wanted to not ever talk about it. I didn't want you to become so, you know, I didn't want you to become so obsessed about it. Yeah. So, I just let it be. I let it be whatever. And I think if I were to do over, I think I would probably make it a little bit more important and, do better about eating right and
not having
vegetable
every
like not eating, Pop-Tarts for breakfast. And, I think I would, I'd go back and change that for sure.
When was the last time our relationship changed, and what do you think that led us to?
Obviously, when I broke up with my ex-boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
I think that, we were already close. And I never had a problem talking to you, and we talked to each other often. We didn't FaceTime all the time. We didn't like do that whole thing, but like we never felt, I mean, at least to me, it never felt like we were, I guess, apart. But our relationship did absolutely change when I left him and moved in with you guys. I feel like even my gender expression changed when I moved in. Because like it was like kind of like teetering, because I was like, I had been identifying as non-binary for like that long already, but like when I moved in, I felt like I had the freedom to just fully just relax, essentially.
Yeah. I think for the first time ever in your life.
I don't know if I told you this, but like because I think I bought like my first skirt to just like wear, because I bought it for like when I did drag or like when I did other things, but like when I bought my first skirt, I tell my friends, I was like, it was incredibly affirming that you did not care. No, it's great, because like it wasn't like you were sitting there like almost in like almost like being condescending, be like, yes, that's amazing work, whatever.
I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you're just
Nice
like, that's
skirt.
cool. Or you didn't like shame me for it, right?
Yeah.
But you were just like, oh, that's cute. And that was the most affirming thing for me, because I'd only ever really experienced one or two things. People really like being condescending and like almost like giving me too much compliments. Then people just like really saying like, what the fuck is going on there? You know? And so, yeah, that was...
I didn't know that.
Oh my God, it means the world to me. That was the one where I felt like completely comfortable.
Aw.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. How do you describe our relationship to others?
How do I describe my relationship? I mean, sometimes I like to say that you're my boyfriend. Just because, like, some people just, like, I mean, people who don't know you, for example, my coworkers, if they ask, I say, yeah, I have a boyfriend.
Sick.
He's really cool. He has a lot of tattoos.
That feels good.
Yeah, I figured you'd like it, but I never told you until just now.
Oh. Do you ever say girlfriend?
Mm-mm.
Do you ever say partner?
Yeah, sometimes.
Do you ever
Most
say,
of the time.
Do you ever say anything else?
Partner, no, that's about it. That's like, you know, that pretty much covers it. For people that like know and are kind of in the community and like might potentially know you, also I say partner, but for people who are just kind of whatever, you know, I say boyfriend just to keep it simple so that nobody gets confused. I don't know. You kind of have to think about things in like very binary terms when interacting with like straight people and cis people, stuff like that.
Totally.
Just to simplify it for them.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you ever say my gender nonconforming so-and-so, my trans so-and-so?
No, I don't feel like that's like super relevant, or like people don't really need to know. Or maybe it's like, I don't feel like that's my thing to disclose.
Do you, what would you like me to describe you as when I'm talking to people? I say girlfriend.
That's fine. I like it.
Okay. Or partner.
Like girlfriend.
Cool.
When people see me, it's like, girlfriend, are you sure? Like,
I'm like, isn't she hot?
When did we misunderstand each other the most, and how did we overcome it? When did we misunderstand each other most, and how did we overcome it?
Misunderstand each other the most. When you started transitioning, I think when you told me that, when you were starting to step into and walk into your queerness, that was life-changing for me. You saying to me, I'm not gonna say you're not normal, because you are normal, but I'm not the woman that you think I am, or I'm not this feminine this feminine person that you think that I am. I'm not that. So I would say that would probably be for me.
Yeah.
What about you?
I would agree. I think like my queer identity, like my perspective on social issues, like as I evolved, I think that became, like I just knew you didn't get it. But I think the one thing I'll say is like also mental health. That just was not in our narrative, right? Like mental health and like depression and all of these things, like they were seen as like, there's something wrong with you, like you're crazy, right? Like that's even ableist language to use, but that's how I felt. And I think that was actually the first time that I felt misunderstood, which is like, I think why I began to internalize so much more things that I knew about myself, because that first incident where I like obviously tried to commit suicide, like I now know that you tried to advocate for me and you weren't able to get the resources that we needed at the time. But I actually didn't know that until like 2 weeks ago. You never told me. So in my whole life, I've just thought like, these people did not care about the fact that I tried to take my own life, you know? So I would say that's the other place that I feel like you've misunderstood me. But I think as I've grown as an adult, I recognize the disparities around mental health generationally. And I recognize how that is not like something that like we grew up with in our culture, was to like understand that like it's okay to struggle. And like there are literal chemical imbalances. There are so many other interferences that are happening. And even adding on to that, just this idea of like what it means to have been a high achieving child in a white space. Like, baby, I've been probably dealing with mental health issues since I was 7 and just didn't know it, right? Because like in many ways, like I was tokenized.
How do you think your parents would react if you brought me home as your partner?
Oh my God, that's so funny.
How important?
That's a good question. I don't know. Okay, so we do have our issues as a culture and stuff, but we're very hospitable. So we'll definitely treat you with hospitality and be kind. They would definitely be pretty shocked. Or maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe some people who I have been open with would be like, yeah, seems like your type of person. Yeah, seems like your type. You're into tattoos too, things like that. I'm like, okay, cool. Would probably have to rush my mom to the emergency room because she would have like a panic attack or a heart attack. Who knows?
Oh, no.
I would say that. Yeah.
Well,
it's close by. It's like 5 minutes away.
Oh,
so
good,
it's not too far.
Okay,
She'll be fine.
I don't feel bad.
She'll be okay.
Okay, that's fair. I wouldn't have expected anything different based on what you were telling me about your family. But at the same time, the fact that, like, I feel like if you would ever be willing to bring me home as a partner or bring anyone home as a partner, the fact that you would be willing to make that effort despite knowing your family's history with that topic shows bravery on your part. So I think that that's more of what you would focus on as opposed to whatever harsh things your family would have to say about it.
I guess I never thought of it that way. I more so always thought of myself as the bad guy and kind of saying like, why would I ever put anybody in that situation? I don't want them to ever feel uncomfortable. But for you to say that was really nice. It made me think of it in a different light.
Yeah. I mean, even if you make them uncomfortable, at the same time, you might be working towards making your partner comfortable. So you can't necessarily always do it for everyone, but as long as you're doing it for someone, you're still making an effort.
What have you learned from me that changed you?
Well, maybe it's kind of silly because now, like, I've always been queen of the gays, so, like, you definitely weren't, like, the first queer person I ever met. But for some reason, like, there was just something about meeting someone that, like, wasn't from my town, that, like, wasn't a friend of a friend. Like, we had no mutual friends. We had no reason to know each other. You were just literally a stranger. And I think, like, it was really impactful for me to see that you were, like, out, And I look back now and maybe it wasn't so much that, it's just, like, a word in your Instagram bio, right? But that meant a lot to me, and it made me really not as embarrassed as I felt. I felt really embarrassed.
Yeah.
Of myself.
Me too.
And, like, you were just so fucking beautiful. And I just thought, like, like, you can be, like, gender fluid and you can be queer and you can be, like, look at this person being gender fluid and being happy. And look at this gender fluid person, like, not being afraid to, like, meet someone new. And, like, just, like, that blew my mind. And it just made me feel like, yeah, like I didn't have to be so embarrassed. So I don't really feel embarrassed anymore about that. It's really impactful for me. I had gotten, support, I feel like, from people I knew, but it just felt like to a certain point, if it was like a thought of like transitioning, then it was like, I'll always love ya, like whatever it was not like necessarily the whole way through.
Right.
But I just feel like anytime I even came to you with like, I don't know, like I don't know what I'm feeling, I don't know what I want, like you've just never made me feel embarrassed. Like I feel like it's maybe more embarrassing or a lot more silly to feel that way. Sorry.
No. Well, it's great. I just like, I'm not, definitely not like the most visibly non-binary person in the world. I'm like, I was like, sometimes I just like, yeah, there's just like a lot of things I think, like whether it's like a beard or like, I don't know, stupid shit. It's always stupid shit, like.
Yeah.
But like, I just never thought that I was that person for someone. There's like so many people that we hang out with that I look up to for that, right? Like, and just like, I don't know. I guess like to hear that I could be that for someone's cool.
Yeah.